Okay, so just a couple things. Do feel free to use the chat or the Q&A feature if you do have any questions. If you have any issues, just try refreshing your browser and reconnecting. Sometimes the internet's funny and it kicks us all off. So just feel free to hop on anytime and feel free to participate, ask any questions, things like that. And I will be sending out the slides will live on our website as well as the video will live on our website as well as YouTube. So feel free to refer back to this anytime. Also, feel free to connect with me directly. My email and information is all on the website as well as you got it in your registration package. So connect anytime. I'm happy to chat. So today, talking about Saskatchewan Open Farm Days, this is kind of the outline that we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the event outline, some of the resources and organization that we have available to you, getting the word out, and then we have Clinton joining us for the second half of the presentation. So I'm really excited to dig in here. So event outline for those of you that haven't participated in Saskatchewan Open Farm Days in 2024. It was our first year last year. This is our second year, which is very exciting. Last year we had 36 farms participate, and we estimate over 3,000 people across the province went to check out various farms around Saskatchewan, which is remarkable for a first year event. And we're very excited to amplify and continue to build on this success. Our goals for this event is to connect local farmers and producers and engage the public about how our food is produced. That's our goal within Saskatchewan Open Farm Days. And this event is hosted by Farm and Food Care Saskatchewan. Clinton is our executive director for Farm and Food Care Saskatchewan, so I'll let him speak more specifically to that. But the event itself, we really want to help people discover the many local products and experiences and the diversity of farms operating in Saskatchewan, and create that environment for development of consistent agriculture and culinary tourism products. So being able to have resources and tools for people to amplify what they're doing on farm or agritourism and culinary experiences that exist currently. So Saskatchewan Open Farm Days, we are a province-wide event that gives visitors the chance to experience farm life up close. It's held on a weekend in August, and it connects people with farmers and producers, showcasing the diversity of agriculture in our province. Locations register to host their own experience, and participants can explore working farms, learn about food production, and take on hands-on activities, enjoy farm fresh experiences from grain farms to livestock operations to fruit orchards, specialty products. There's really something for everyone. And when we talk about the vastness of this project, we had farms all the way from Thunder Rapids down to Val-Marie participating last year, which is remarkable that we were able to cover such a wide span within Saskatchewan. So whether audiences or folks coming to visit you are a food enthusiast or a family looking for a new adventure or a newcomer curious about where food comes from, this event specifically is a celebration of Saskatchewan's rich agricultural heritage, our farming practices, and those people behind the food and that feed our communities and feed the world, which is quite remarkable to be able to showcase that all in one event. So the types of farms and businesses participating, we have farms and producers, markets, tour operators, restaurants, accommodations, beverage producers, agritourism attractions, retailers, cooking schools, finished food products. This is just a very high level list when it comes to what we want to showcase within Open Farm Days. Anything that fits within telling that story of agriculture and food production in our province is what we want to connect the consumer to. I'll get a little bit more into audiences and who we're actually targeting here in a couple slides, but it's really a great opportunity to showcase the diversity and the vastness of what we offer here in Saskatchewan. Hosts themselves. So one thing we do require with hosts participating in Open Farm Days is that they do offer something free that people could come and experience. And it doesn't mean that your whole experience has to be free, but what we want is somebody to be able to come to your venue or your property and be able to take in something and make that access point no charge to them, just because we want to make it accessible. There were a lot of newcomers who joined us last year, which was remarkable. And there's a lot of people in smaller communities that we want to make sure have the ability to come and experience it. And so being able to promote as every farm has some sort of free experience or every location, it just creates more excitement about the event. But we do also encourage hosts to have paid experiences in addition to offering their free things. So a good example of this would be a farm that has like a paid admission, but then they also have a farm market store. So you can go and experience their farm store for free. You can go and see what they have to offer, maybe shop a couple things, but they don't have it in their budget to go and pay the admission to go into the farm and do the tractor rides and pet the animals or whatever it is. So being able to offer that free experience along with the paid experience really does help to encourage people to come, but it also helps the hosts recoup those costs because we do know it costs money to participate in events and to showcase what you're doing. So we just want to make sure that there's that healthy balance there. And we have seen this model successful in other provinces as well. So it's just whatever we can do to help recover some of those costs, as we'll talk about that as well when it comes to the marketing side and what we offer. So we have two main audiences that we target with Saskatchewan Open Farm Days. Our main audience is those visitors and those residents of Saskatchewan who are seeking to deepen their connection to agriculture and food. We did, like I said, there are a lot of folks coming from different countries who don't actually know what we have in Saskatchewan and that we grow what we grow here. But we are getting further and further away from the farm itself. We have more generations in between grandma and grandpa who grew up or who had the family farm and those who live in more urban areas. So being able to bridge that connection is what we're trying to do. A lot of grandparents brought their grandkids out to various farms to come and experience what we had to what the farm was offering, especially if it was in something that they did previously, taking the kids back to the dairy when they used to work on a dairy previously. The secondary market is visitors from across Canada and other countries who are seeking to immerse themselves in that authentic agriculture related experience. We have chatted a lot with Alberta Open Farm Days, and their event is actually the week after ours. So it's nice. So people, if they are traveling through Canada, they can come to Saskatchewan first, come and experience what we have to offer, continue their drive through. And Alberta actually has a full culinary week that they promote in advance to their open farm days. So they could make a whole 2-week vacation coming and experiencing agriculture, which is quite neat. So there's two ways that how visitors can participate. We are doing hosted bus tours again this year, which were greatly successful last year. So this year we're actually going to be doing 3 on August 9th in Regina, leaving from Regina, Saskatoon, and Moose Jaw in those areas. They're $50 a person. People hop on the bus. They have a host. Clinton was generous to hop on the bus last year for us in Saskatoon, and we had a great experience being able to just have a really curated day for those for those folks on the bus tour. It included, I think there's 4 farms per day that we're able to showcase in that area. So there's not a lot, but people get a lot of bang for their buck in it. Then there's also the self-guided version. So this is a more flexible opportunity for people to go and kind of create their own farm adventure, especially for families or people with young kids. You don't necessarily want to be sitting on a bus all day with a 2-year-old, but it gives you the opportunity to have more of a self-guided experience, make a little eggcation out of it, go down to Swift Current, go to 4 or 5 farms one day, stay overnight, take in a farm in the morning, and then head back. So there's a little bit more of being able to create your own pace. We also are launching this year, and we'll get more into it later on, is our new digital platform, which helps to enhance the self-guided experience. So it's way easier for navigation. It's a hands-on navigation tool, which is great. The farm profiles from our website are directly put onto it. And then we can add like a gamifying option. So if there are, if you go to say, we can make it so that if a visitor goes to say 5 farms, they get a Open Farm Days tote bag or something like that to encourage people to go to various locations. But what's really neat is we can actually track a lot of information about these visitors and who's coming to farms and where they're traveling from. So it gives us a really good insight for planning for future years from an Open Farm Days perspective, but also from you guys as hosts. It gives you a great opportunity to get some really clear data on who's coming, how long they're staying, what they're doing, that kind of thing. And both of the hosted bus tour and the self-guided option really gives people a unique way to learn about our agriculture. So getting into what we have to offer through the event itself. We have four main areas in which we provide two hosts. So we do the full event organization. So last year, like I said, we would connect with every single farm, make sure that there is signage, all of those details, help walk through some experience development, things like that. We help with a full, robust marketing campaign. I'll do a high level on kind of what we're doing this year and what opportunities fit within that. We also provide a participant stipend. So we provide $200 for washroom or porta potty rentals. We know not everyone wants people coming into their homes if they don't have a public washroom. Or if you want to build a washroom facility within your space, you can actually use that $200 to go towards the construction of that. We had a host do that last year that she was getting into this anyways. So she applied that $200 stipend to that. We also apply event insurance, so a general liability insurance for the event to be covered at your farm that weekend, specific to host farms. I have a event handbook that actually lays out exactly what is covered and what isn't covered. And if you are curious or have questions, I mean, we're not going to be doing fireworks, we're not going to be doing bouncy houses, things like that. It's not covered. But if you do have specific questions about what is and what isn't covered, I'm happy to connect you with our insurance agent specifically. And then we also have a wide resource list of trainings and tools for you. These webinars is kind of the start of it, but we also have collected a lot of really good tools to get your brain going, thinking about what you can offer, how you can participate in different ways, and just some really good, just like I said, tools to get you going. We've created this year an event planning handbook. So it includes a checklist of things to consider while you're getting your space ready, visitor itineraries. So if you've never hosted people at your farm before, it actually has an itinerary with an example showing this is what a day at our farm would look like, how to make key messages so that when you do have people ask about open farm days or do ask about your farm specifically, you have your top 3 points that you're ready to talk about. So there's some really great tools in there for you to utilize and to help make your weekend a success. And that's the one thing I did want to note as well. With open farm days, if you only want to participate on just the Saturday or just the Sunday, that is up to you as a host farm. We don't say you have to participate both days. You make your hours as to what works best for you. Most farms are open from 9 to 6, but it's totally up to you what you want to be able to provide access to. If it only works for afternoons for both Saturday and Sunday, or just the one afternoon, that is absolutely fine with us. What's nice about the website and the profiles that we build on each farm is that all of that information is communicated through one platform so that what you send us that we're only open on these days, that's all they'll ever see is that this farm is open on this day. So it's not like we're promoting that you're open year round and you'll be able to go anytime to go check out these different locations if they're not. So we just want to make sure that that's really clear. We do have a few other resources. So once you sign up to be a host, you'll have access to our full host resources site. Tourism Saskatchewan has some great tools through organizing special events if you are curious into really getting robust into that. And there is some funding programs available through that if you wanted to continue on beyond Open Farm Days. We've added to our website this year, Elevating Canadian Experiences. So there's an agritourism and culinary module program that they've now put online for free that you can actually access really good nationwide case studies about agri and culinary tourism in the country. And then also the Culinary Tourism Alliance. They're so inspiring and they just really create they have a lot of really curated projects that they've dug into that are just, it's always great to peruse what's going on in the country. This is an outline as to what's on our host resources page. So under host resources, our host farms, sorry, under host resources, this is what you will find on that page. So we have quite a bit on there. The posters, the logos, media releases, all of our webinars live there. Speak Up training, the host planning book will be on there as well. And then we have other things like a guest login, coloring sheets if you have a coloring area for kids, of farm signage, gate signage, all of these things, as well as the stipend for the porta potties when you're ready to do that post event and get reimbursed for those. Those are on there also. So lots of really great tools for you to take advantage of leading up to the event. Here's our schedule for upcoming free webinars. This is on our website, so don't feel stressed that you don't remember the dates if you don't. But it's just a nice example of what we're trying to do to help provide information. If there's additional webinars that you think would be helpful, send me a note. But we will be doing an Agritourism 101, partnered with Tourism Saskatchewan. Karina Capellier, she used to run an agritourism experience as well, and she's in the development space within Tourism Saskatchewan, which is great. From farm to newsfeed, talking about Canva and AI. If you're not familiar with those, that's a great starting point. Serving and selling food on your farm. We have Saskatchewan Health Authority joining us for that one. From farm to market, hosting a successful market at your location. So that's what we've seen in a lot of other jurisdictions across Canada, is that farms will actually welcome an additional other vendors to come to their property, or other nearby farms to come to their one location and offer a vendor market to just promote what else there is available for sale in the area. So if you have neighbors that don't necessarily want to do their own open farm days, but want to join in on yours, they're more than welcome to. So we have Holly from the Regina Farmers Market talking about how to do that. And then we're also going to do a full webinar on marketing with Saskatchewan Open Farm Days. So I'll speak about what we're doing. And then we also have Tourism Saskatchewan coming as well to talk about how they can, what tools they have to amplify that work as well, because they're quite interested in the agritourism space. So it just helps you kind of take what we're doing here, and if you want to amplify it, it gives you that opportunity to connect with that team. So getting the word out, I will talk very high level about this because I really want you guys to come to the webinar that we're hosting in May, specifically about marketing, but we will be recording it as well if you aren't able to attend. So the marketing and communication strategy specific for Open Farm Days is aim to reach two host audiences from our perspective. So we have our hosts, so you lovely folks who have joined us today, and then our consumers, our event attendees. So we have an approach that combines both traditional paid advertising, influencers, all of that to maximize our awareness. But what we want to do is make sure that we have the right information going out to the right people, and being able to provide all these marketing tools in different ways just really helps to amplify, get that word out. We started last year, it was a lot smaller, and so we're really excited to build on that this year. Traditional marketing this year, so we're going to be doing newspaper, radio, some television spots, and then media releases. So a really great tool that we found last year was actually the Saskatchewan Newspaper Association, and they actually send out a media release on your behalf. I think it's $50, and they send it to their membership, and then it's up to the membership if they want to actually use it. But bang for your buck, this is a great opportunity to really get the word out. So if you want to, we'll be sending our host newsletter out. So if you have a local newspaper, you'll probably see us in your newspaper here in the next couple weeks. But we will be also doing one for consumers as well. Our consumer campaign starts June 1st, as you will see us more so talking about the host farms who are participating starting June 1st. But right now, we want to get the word out to get hosts on board. Other things that we want to note is simple things like posters, postcards. We have lots of them. So if you would like some, we're happy to send them out or to meet you at a market if you're nearby. Just have those on board or on hand at farmers markets, or if you're out in town and being able to put them on the community post board, getting them out, that helps for sure. And what's nice is our posters are actually double-sided. So on the one side, it's talking to our hosts, you lovely folks, getting them to come on board. And then on the other side, it's the consumer. So if you do have opportunity, just flip them over. We figured a 2-in-1 would save on some money. And then we also have word of mouth. So if you do have people in your area that you're talking to, make sure to mention Open Farm Days, get them on board. What we find in certain areas is that if you have more farms in your area that are signed up for Open Farm Days, more people are likely to go to your region. A great example of this was last year was Val-Marie. They are booming down there. I am just so proud of what they're doing. So they actually have the Heritage Elevator down there, and then they had I think they had 8 different operators in that area that people could go and experience very different types of agriculture experiences, from grain milling to like the Hodgeville Hutterite colony to horseback riding. It was absolutely so diverse, but they all really worked together to speak to each other. And so that's something that I really encourage. And so if you do want any support in building these clusters and reaching out to people, connect with me directly. I'll be talking to these folks, but also helping. I can come to communities and just come and have a chat with folks and say, hey, join us for Open Farm Days this year. Let's get people out here. And then, of course, social media is a great tool. We do have Facebook, Instagram, we're on YouTube. So feel free to share our content. The more, the merrier. We also, on our host resources page, we have templates. So if you want to use our content to promote Open Farm Days yourself within Open Farm Days, I've created some templates within Canva that you can just go in, throw your pictures in, throw your details in, and then use it as you see fit, which is great. It makes it super simple to promote the event. And just if you aren't inspired already, I do have our 2024 video that I'll play here, and then I'll get Clinton to hop on the call.
Get out and find out where your food comes from. It's so rewarding and so enlightening. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. You know, you go and buy a bag of beans at the store, you don't get that touchstone with the farmer. You don't get a really clear understanding about the amount of work and effort that goes into producing that product. So getting out and seeing it really does open your eyes to the reality of what our food production stream looks like. And it's Saskatchewan, we're all super friendly, so get out and enjoy, meet new people.
I was very much interested to know about the farming and the culture here in the province, so that's why this was a great opportunity for me to learn how the farming is here, what kind of machinery, how labor intensive it is. So I think it's an awesome way to know your province.
Just so they can learn a little bit about farming and be more connected to where food comes from. It's a great way for us to connect with the community and really get people standing in a wheat field and walking around farm equipment and learning what is very ordinary to us, but could be very extraordinary to individuals coming to see and learn about the farm.
I wanted to have a small farm that was open to the public since I was 15 years old. So 3 years ago I started building this. So yeah, I wanted a farm to be accessible to visitors, but especially safe for young kids to explore. I think it's important that people kind of have an understanding of where food comes from and also where meat comes from.
Kind of do something different and find out more about farming and what it's all about. So it's very interesting. I really like it.
Absolutely love it. We love to support local, and my thing is I just love cows, so this is probably one of my more favorite things to do.
It's really fun for farms across the province to be opened up to tourists. I mean, we do some tourist operations ourselves, but for them to open up and let visitors in, because people are so fascinated with how things work. It's really fun to be able to show people, and just the idea of all the different farms across the province opening up and showing people how they actually do make food and get it to them, I think is pretty exciting.
Great. It's just so exciting to see recaps from previous years. Gets me all excited. So I will get Clinton to hop on. I'll stop sharing my screen and you can start sharing yours. And then if you do have questions as well, we'll have time for questions at the end.
Okay, let's see if I can do this here. We're going to share this one. I'm going to make it in the presenter mode. Okay. So thank you very much, Ashley. I did want to just briefly say that it really was a great experience. So I was the tour host on the bus in Saskatoon. Ironically enough, my in-laws from Oklahoma were up that weekend, and it was great to actually give them a little bit of a taste of what some variety anyways of Saskatchewan agriculture was. So it really was eye-opening for a lot of the people who were on that tour. But I just want to talk a little bit more about connecting with consumers. So for those of you who are not as familiar with Farm and Food Care, we have three different organizations, one in PEI, Ontario, and Saskatchewan. We have a variety of different resources that you can take a look at afterwards. I know Ashley had already mentioned the Speak Up training that's free on our website. We also do the Real Dirt on Farming. There's a Farm Food 360, and our national kind of consumer outreach online campaign is called Canadian Food Focus. So wide variety in terms of what we do. But really the whole kind of area around this and why Open Farm Days is such a great fit is because we want to make sure consumers understand where their food is coming from. We want to make sure we're doing engaging opportunities, have different programs, industry involvement. That's why it's great that individuals like yourselves have taken an interest in Open Farm Days. We know that we can talk in different silos about what we do, but really the true learning happens when people get on farms and ranches and can actually experience that. So that's what we are really trying to do here in Saskatchewan and across the country. And so here's just kind of an overview why it's important. We'll talk about communications and answering tough questions. So I like to start things off with why it's important, and it's great that y'all are here and this is being recorded for other people too to listen in afterwards. But this is one of the reasons why I think it's important. So this was a study done at Oklahoma State University where half my family lives. 90% of Americans eat meat at least occasionally, but half of respondents to a survey support a ban on slaughterhouses. I'll read that back to you. Just about half of individuals support a ban on slaughterhouses, but 90% of Americans eat meat. This is the crux of our issue. When we get so far removed from actual farms and ranches, people don't understand where their food comes from. But it turns out they do want to know more about how their food is being produced. Here's just some new data that we work very closely with the Canadian Centre for Food Integrity. This is indicating that people's perception or view of the food system is increasingly that it's going into the wrong direction. We can go through stats and whatnot more in depth if there are questions. But in 2020, when COVID happened, there were a lot of people discussing, talking about growing food and preparing their own food for their family and their houses because restaurants weren't available. And there was a huge increase in that just confidence in our food system. And I'd be willing to bet that when we take the 2025 numbers, we're going to see that people's viewpoint of the food system is actually increased because we're becoming more patriotic right now because of the individual south of the border right now kind of promoting Canadians to buy more Canadian product, which supports the whole let's buy local, let's buy what's being produced here in Canada. One of the big reasons around why there's a little bit of a decline in 20, or not a little bit, there's been a decline since 2020 in terms of people's view of the food system is because of the cost of food. And I think a lot of you who are on this can attest to the fact that food prices really have gone up. But there's a whole bunch of different factors that have contributed to that. I'm a farmer myself. I farm by Lanigan, Saskatchewan with my brother. I can tell you for a fact in the last 4 years, the costs for me to produce a crop have definitely increased quite a bit, whether it's fertilizers or cost of equipment, cost of fuel. All these things have increased, and as a result, it ends up feeding back to the price of food. When you have a conversation with individuals, when you're face to face with them and you can actually say, this is why the cost of food has increased, there is a higher degree of acceptance to that. They may not like having to pay more for their food, but at least they understand a little bit more, and that adds into the food literacy discussion. When we ask people, why do you not trust the food system? The biggest concern is lack of honesty. And then, when you go to grocery stores, you feel that, Sobeys, Safeway, Co-op, whoever, they're taking too much money. There's greedy people out there. A lot of these discussions can be, again, just quelled by just discussing why how much it costs you to actually produce food on your own farms and giving a little bit of that background. When people understand that, again, their level of support and acknowledgement and support for the food industry in general does increase. The other thing that I like to talk about, and this is again adds to the whole idea of open farm days, is understanding perspective from those who are not from farms. We've become very urbanized. I like to tell the story. I took my master's in the University of Guelph, and back in way long ago when I was 20 years younger, I could actually drive from Guelph, Ontario to Toronto, and there were literally farmer fields on the 401. I was just back there this last summertime, and there are no more farmer fields in between. So you don't even see farms in some of these mega cities anymore. They're completely removed. And then, to be honest, our farms have gotten bigger. We have less farms operating on bigger land bases. So then a lot of perspective that consumers do have is what they've been told or what they watched on social media. And it's not necessarily always representative of what's really happening on your farm or ranch. So that's why we need to actually get out there. One of the things that I do like to add, and I'm doing a lecture series right now at the university on this, is making sure we understand who the most trusted individuals are in the food system. It's not grocery retailers, it's not the government, it's definitely not politicians, it's farmers and ranchers, and those individuals that do the science and the research behind it. That's why we have such a leg up in the food system. When people come to your farm or ranch, you're automatically a highly trusted individual to talk about that. And we need to use that to our advantage. I just think every time I sit on an airplane or I'm at a different community event and I mention that I'm a farmer, we have a farm in Saskatchewan and a ranch in Oklahoma, people want to talk about it. They want to understand how I grow my food. We had a table egg business for quite some time. They want to understand how those eggs are being grown, what the conditions of the birds are in the barns that we had. All those things come up into these discussions, and it's because they trust what we're going to say when we talk about it. So it's great to already have that relationship. One of the things that we do, and this is for the speak up training, I'm not going to go into it in depth, but it's just practicing a little bit of a pitch of your own farm. It just gets you comfortable talking about it. You can read this. This is mine. Just a few key points, though, when you're talking about your own relationship to food and your farm or your ranch, is talking about the family aspects. That's one of the things that sometimes we glaze over. But when there's a family aspect to your business, to your farm, it's more relatable to others when you talk about it. So every time I talk about our farm, it's a family farm, it's a family ranch. The longevity of some of our farms, I mentioned here that it's actually my great grandfather that homesteaded back in 1906. But a lot of our farms, whether you're new or old, we need to talk about that family aspect, because when we mention the family, there's that shared value that exists. As a result of that, the level of trust again goes up, and you can actually have those conversations based on the shared values. Just a few little communication things. And again, I just talked about this in my lecture yesterday on campus, but when you have the goals that you're trying to get across to the individuals that are out on your farm, you're not trying to persuade or necessarily educate them. You're trying to engage with them. And what I mean by engagement is having that two-way conversation. And I think of if you want to consider communication goals with your own spouse or significant other, if you try to persuade them or educate them, I can tell you it probably won't go very well for you in the long term in terms of a communication goal. Engagement means there's the back and forth communication and understanding their feelings, what their viewpoints are, and having some really productive conversations with them about that. And this is where, and I'm not going to get into the sociology, but just the high level in terms of building trust with an individual or even a group of individuals. It really needs to come from both the knowledge of your information, so the facts or the IQ, but also the EQ, the emotional intelligence, and that's the values-based initiatives. And when we look at the values-based initiatives, we're finding that the more you can actually relate and story tell on an emotional basis, the higher the degree of trust is. And it's not only true for this in terms of just having conversations with people about food, but it's true for relationships as well. And you can probably look back in your life and think of different individuals that you've had high levels of trust for or with, and typically it's because you've connected with them on more of a shared value basis. Just a few tips in terms of went too far. Having engaging conversations. Keep in mind who you're talking to. One of the things that we found is if when people come out to your farm, if you can kind of use the education level of your farm as around a grade 4 level, that gives you the opportunity if they're a newcomer to Canada and don't understand anything about Canadian agriculture, you can dull that down. Or if they happen to be a high school science teacher, you can bring that up a little bit to talk about some of the maybe science that you use on your farm. But it really helps understanding how you can increase or decrease that level of knowledge with those individuals and have engaging conversations as opposed to maybe talking too low or talking too high. Um, Understanding concerns. I do get, so our farm in Lanigan, Saskatchewan is a conventional farm. So we use herbicides, we use genetically modified canola. We use both actually, GMO and non-GMO canola. But usually that ends up kind of getting some concerns that people have. So before giving them a spiel on, why we would use them or why we wouldn't use certain things, it's good to understand people's perspective around those different tools that we would use on our farm to make sure that if they do have concerns, we address those concerns as opposed to kind of blanketing over things. Um, Talk about what you know, but not too much. I think if you've ever met a chatty person and you realize at the end of the conversation, holy crow, I never actually said one word in this conversation, you'll realize that it's not very engaging for the other individual. At any point in time, if just use your own personal examples. I talk so much about the history of our farm when we do tours at our place and talking about, this is what my dad used and this was the best technology at that point. But then we found out, 20 years later that there's better technology, and that's no different than on any other farm. Communicating, being positive. It's amazing when you smile at people. And I know Ashley always has a big smile. She's a bubbly individual. But as soon as somebody smiles, you're more engaging with them. You just want to talk to them. Listen, avoid debates. I realize it is tough in our political climate right now to not have debates. I know everybody, especially on social media, wants to have debates with you on certain things. The problem with debates is there's winners and losers. And I've been a Leafs fan my entire life, and I know what it's like to be a loser, and it sucks. But just like that, nobody wants to lose any debates, so it's better to just back off on that. Body language, I think you all can attest to that too. This is scientific literature around that. It's the 738-55 rule from a UCLA professor. But it's amazing that the tone of your voice and your body language actually exhibits more of that communication than even the words you choose. So again, in a lot of my classes on campus, I talk about practicing in a mirror, how you would actually look towards other people, or recording you speaking in front of other people. That just kind of gives you some of those nonverbal cues in terms of how you're communicating with others. I want to make sure people understand too that there is such a wide variety of different farms, ranches, choices that we make on our own farm for the consuming public that we actually provide those products to. And it is so great. And we're such blessed individuals to be in a country that we have so many choices when it comes to food. There was a time in the past where different farmers would kind of poo on different practices, and we're not about that. We want to make sure whatever form of practice that you do on your own farm, you talk about the benefits of that, but not at the detriment of anybody else. We have neighbors who are organic farmers and they do very well, and I am very supportive of their practices. We have a different farm, but that doesn't mean we don't both provide food to consuming public, right? So I guess the big thing with this is to just talk about the benefits of your own farm and what you do, and indicate that choice is awesome, and we are very privileged in this country to have a variety of different choices for food. So I guess just a little bit of a summary around communications. Be yourself, be positive. I always like to say I have never met a farmer or a rancher that wasn't positive and passionate about their own farm. Even my old grumpy cowboy dad, he is a very passionate individual about our farm. And there's time of day he would definitely talk and chat about the history of our farm because we're passionate about it. It's been his livelihood for just about 80 years. I just want to touch on answering difficult questions. And here's where some questions maybe can't be answered. And we hadn't had any issues last year on Open Farm Days with, say, special interest groups. But it does get back to the golden question in terms of, does the individual that you're talking with agree with the ethical right for this product to be produced? So I'm mainly talking about animal proteins here, but maybe there's others as well. But it's of no benefit getting back to that debate to debate with somebody that doesn't feel that you should be growing animals for animal protein, right? And what you're trying to do is establish what the true question is. If there are some difficult questions are, again, trying to find their true concern, ask some questions around that. In the event that you don't know the answer to a question, because there's definitely questions that are out there that I don't know either, it's okay to say I don't know. We've actually tested this and it increases the level of trust. And I'll use the example of goat milk. I don't know anything about goat milk. So when people ask me about goat milk, I say I don't know. However, there's the site on the Ontario Goat Farmers, I think it is, that you can learn more about goat milk. That increases the level of trust because we're all human. Nobody expects you to know everything about agriculture. So it allows us to actually increase that level of trust. Friendly, a lot of these things we've already talked about. Dealing with difficult people in the event it gets too, and again, I don't think this is going to happen, but in the event it does, to at least understand and know what the local kind of police department or security is beneficial in the event you have to get somebody out. Please do not manhandle anybody, touch anybody, do anything like that, because that doesn't benefit anybody at the end of the day. And realize that is very few and far between, but the reason we do put this in there is because there has been instances in British Columbia and in Ontario where this has happened, and it's just good to have a backup plan in the event that you have to deal with a difficult individual on your farm. But really, at the end of the day, just keep your cool. 3 deep breaths, like my wife always says when I get angry about something, right? And then just kind of proceed calmly. In terms of difficult questions, I would recommend that you think of those difficult questions ahead of time in terms of how you would answer them. And again, I don't know, all your farms and your ranches are going to be different, but if it's pesticides, if it's livestock, if it's climate change, disease, we've been hearing a lot about avian influenza in the United States. To kind of think about how you would answer these questions. If you do have poultry on your farm, you know, how do you answer the question of avian influenza? Climate change is definitely something that is out there, and a lot more questions are being asked around that. So, you know, what are you doing on your farm in an effort to um, kind of adapt to climate change or reduce the amount of emissions, for example, on your farm, and having some of those background questions that you can already pre-answer in your mind is beneficial. And I just say, you know, if you could pick some of these and practice answering it, it would be beneficial. Um, with all the just making sure you understand some of the difficulties and try and, you know, make the experience a beneficial and a memorable one for those that are coming out to your farm or ranch, you have to realize what we find ordinary on our own farms is absolutely extraordinary to individual. And I have two pictures. So back in the day when we had a ranch and a dairy farm on our family farm out in Lanigan, I would probably produce about 2,000 of these in a summer, 2,000 round bales. It gets very monotonous and very boring after you've been in the tractor that sometimes did and sometimes did not have air conditioning. When people see a bale, we had a comment on this tour, I just witnessed the birth of a bale. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a frickin' bale, right? But it is amazing to these individuals, or this. If those of you who have made silage in the past and actually had it ferment, I absolutely love the smell of that because it smells like beer, right? And I love beer. But silage is something you can't really explain to people until you actually grab a handful and you kind of talk about how it ferments and whatnot, and use that as a feedstock for ruminants. But it's a great opportunity, and again, the individuals that have just huge smiles on their face after they tour your farm is great. All these resources are up on our website, and I know Ashley has all those too, and I think I've used my 20 minutes up, so I will stop my sharing now. Oop, I hit the wrong button. Oh, Ash, you're muted.
I just realized that. Thank you. So thank you, Clinton, for hopping on and sharing that. I find it's also informative to have just like a nice background of those communication tools and tactics in place. So I'm going to stop the recording here just so you guys are free to answer questions, and we will go from there. So like I said, I will have it recorded and put on our website probably by end of day. So if you want to watch it back, it will be there. But I will open it up to the floor if you guys do have any questions.